Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to another COVID Conversations. I am back home. Yay! How you guys doing? Tonight. I'm excited about tonight. We have someone who is a wonderful person, who's a wonderful person. Why am I getting all of this stuff on my computer as I'm getting ready to talk about this wonderful person who's coming on board? And now I have never met her in person, but I'm so excited. Oh, there she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear
How,
me?
yes, how awkward is it to get on an Instagram live?
And
It's
then
literally
meet
like
you. I
I
know.
feel I feel like you're like that's how I am, or I'm up by it like this. Like how do
I know.
it's literally
Well, everyone, you have tonight with us the great actress and activist, Alyssa Milano. How are you?
I am I'm hanging in there. There's a lot going on for sure. I had COVID in March, April.
Yeah.
And this is the first week that I'm actually starting to feel better. So that
Wait a
is
minute.
the,
Wait. This is the first week you're starting to feel better?
yeah. So, yeah. So, it's the whole ordeal has been very, very hard. So, this is how it started in my stomach, and I had an excruciating headache, like a headache like you would not believe.
People have been talking about that headache. Like you can take medicine and it doesn't relieve it.
No, and it just feels like, sinus headache you're used to, or tension headache back there, but this is like your entire head. And then I had this really awful stomach thing that was debilitating, and that lasted for about, I don't know, maybe 5, 7 days. And then I started to feel better, and I was like, okay. So I went and I got swabbed because
Mhm.
at this point, the end of March, we knew so little about symptoms and
Right.
everything. And the test came back negative. And I was like, okay, I guess I didn't have it. And then, I don't know, 3 days into feeling better, I got hit with the chest symptoms that were
The lung stuff.
the lung stuff. It felt like there was an elephant sitting on my chest. Literally felt like I could not. It felt like I was in a corset and all my ribs were being squeezed super, super hard, and I couldn't get a deep enough breath.
Mm.
Um, and my doctor was like, "Well, come in, we'll do another test." I
Mm-mm.
took another test,
Wow.
negative. At this point, this is about 4 days into the chest stuff.
Mhm.
I can't breathe. I feel like I'm in respiratory distress. It was the scariest thing ever.
You
And
didn't go to the hospital?
I didn't, because I was so terrified that they were going to like take me away and I was never going to see my family again. And, because that's what was happening at that time. And so I spoke to my doctor, and he said, I'll never forget it. He said, "What do you have in the house?" I said, "What do I have in the house?" He's like, "Yeah, do you have like an inhaler or a nebulizer?" My son always gets sick in his chest. So I had a pediatric nebulizer and pediatric albuterol. And I used that. I had Mucinex, which I used, Benadryl. And he was like, "Take all of it. Take all of it. Put a heating pad on your chest and let me know if it is easier for you to breathe." And sure enough, once everything kicked in, it wasn't easier to breathe, but I could focus on breathing. And
Did you ever
it
think
was,
you want to stop breathing?
it doesn't feel like you're going to stop breathing. It feels like you may not be able to breathe. So
Oh,
it
it's
doesn't feel
pneumonia. It's
like,
pneumonia. It's like pneumonia.
well, that's what they were treating me for, because my tests came back negative. So I was on an antibiotic. And, And so I had every symptom you can imagine. My husband kept looking at me going, "You have this. And it was around the same time too when the testing got all messed up. Like they didn't have enough swabs, and they were cramming to try to make swabs and that whole thing. So I don't know if it was because of that my tests came back negative, but this is what I know. I start to feel better. Now I'm sick for like between the stomach stuff and the lung stuff, I'm sick for about 2.5 weeks. And the acute illness went away, but I still had like exhaustion, really bad ringing in my ears. Like the ringing in my ears is still here. Like shortness of breath. I've been to the hospital once since recovering because of shortness of breath. So I'm one of these long haulers. And in the interim, in the midst of all this, my best friend, who I shot a movie with in Portland, gets sick the same time I'm sick. After he recovers, he goes in for an antibody test. He's got the antibodies. His roommate has COVID, tested positive for COVID, and he called me and he said, "You had this. Go in and get a blood draw for the antibodies." And that's what I did. And sure enough, positive for the antibodies. So I am one of these like long haulers that, it's been months and months now, and I'm having, still symptoms. But this is the first week that I'm still exhausted, but this is the first week that I haven't had heart palpitations, and I feel, like I can breathe, and I feel like there is hope. And also, just so your viewers know, my doctor recommended, because we're all trying to share information because
Yes,
we're
please share.
we're writing the textbook right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my doctor suggested that he suggested green tea because there are studies that the people that didn't get deathly ill in China were those that drank a lot of green tea. So I'm on a green tea extract. I am on an aspirin every 3 days for a blood thinner because they
That's right,
found,
blood clots.
that's
People.
right, young people that were recovering were then dying, weeks later from a stroke or blood clots in their lungs. I have a really good friend who recovered, and then he got a blood clot in his leg weeks after recovery. So they suggested a Tylenol. So take one of those every 3 days. And then the normal viral supplements, which are C, zinc, lysine, things like that. And I gotta tell you, I don't wish this on anyone. Um, People need to take it seriously. I'm a little flabbergasted that we have moved away from it in the media, how we're not really talking about it anymore. And that's why I so appreciate this opportunity to come on and talk about it. And it's frustrating because I know that there are people that think that this is behind them, or people, or just the people that have to go to work and they're in these situations that are not, practicing social distancing and all of that. And I gotta tell you, it is so hard. It's so hard on the body. It's so hard to recover.
So,
And
and you have a child, and that's and
two,
2 children, and being a mommy and being sick, that's got to be the hardest. Um,
well, here's the thing that was terrifying. I'm also a daughter of parents who are in their 70s, so that was terrifying
you had to
too.
stay away from them. You had to
But
stay.
yeah, but
Yeah.
my daughter and I share a bed, and we
Mm-hmm.
have since the pandemic because she's been terrified. She's 6. She turned 6 in 2 days. But she was so scared, and I wasn't gonna make her sleep alone being that scared. So now we sleep in the same bed. So I was in the same bed with her, April, while I was feeling this. And I said to my doctor, I said, should I quarantine? He's like, it's too late now. He said, you're
Did
all
she get
living.
it? Did your daughter
We're
get the?
all living in the same soup now. So I went and got my kids the finger prick antibody test, which is
Mm-hmm,
not as accurate, and they both came back negative.
mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't want to put them through the blood draw because I feel like that would be super traumatic. So I hope they had it and are past it.
Yeah.
And I'm so relieved that it was me that got as sick as I did in my family, because I don't know. That's like my biggest fear now is knowing what it feels like, knowing how sick people get. And by the way, all of my friends that have had this, there's nobody that's just like recovered and been totally fine.
Five
There's
months. 5 months.
5 months. So
Half a year almost.
yep. So recently I had a cardiac MRI,
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure my heart is not damaged, and it's not. And I had a CT scan on my lungs because those were the two things that could show long-term damage, and both were fine. So knock on wood,
That's a blessing.
um, it is a blessing. But
So
yeah,
I didn't realize until recently you had it.
yeah.
And I was like, what? And I'm learning more and more. I've got a lot more friends who have it. And like you, I've had people who tell me they have brain fog. I,
Oh,
I,
the worst.
oh my
And
God.
I'm like really like very vigilant and quick thinking, and I'll forget the most basic words, like coffee or something like that. It'll just escape my mind, or I'll lose my train of thought in the middle of a sentence. But that's because it's all vascular, so it's affecting your brain, it's affecting your entire body. That's why the symptoms are so broad, right?
It's a destroyer. And then another friend, a college class. I have had a couple of college classmates, men who've had it. I've had two people in my church die from it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got a lot. Thank you. I got a lot of people. One of them was 99 years old, 2 months away from 100. Amazing man. Um, I've got a lot of friends who have from all walks of life, but one friend who's African American from college. He tells me he has brain fogs, and it's really, I think it scares him the way he talks to me about it. And he says his joints still ache. I said, your joints are aching.
Yes.
He says he has not recovered. So, wow.
My hair is falling out still. Yeah. Yeah, like in clumps. No, it's no joke. It is no joke. I've never been sick like that in my life. And I think the fact that it also messes with your brain, because I would get into these like the, these crying jags where I would just start crying hysterically and feel so overwhelmed. Um, and I think that's all connected, right? Like if listen, I I want people to know this is a serious thing. It is not over. We're going to hit this again. Everyone needs to go get their flu shots early in
Yeah.
September, and really just do everything you can to protect yourself, to build up your immunity, to do whatever you can. And I know it's hard, and I have and that, I think about all of the resources I have and how hard it must be for people that don't have that,
Yeah.
or the imprisoned, or
Yeah.
people in detention. And it's a lot, but
Yeah.
we're okay. We're gonna be okay. And if I can share my experience with anybody and it helps, then I didn't get sick in
In vain.
vain. Exactly.
Yeah, there's an old gospel song. If I can help somebody as I travel along, then my living shall not be in vain.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so poignant. And this at a time when the state of Maryland, our governor's talking about, oh, everything is open. I'm like, no, the president doesn't want to test anymore because the numbers are going to go higher. People are still dying. Over 184,000 people are dead. And that's just the confirmed number here in this country. It's ridiculous.
Well, and the other thing is I don't feel like we trust any of the information that's coming out. And that's a scary place to be, I think, personally and as a nation, when you have leadership where you don't trust the numbers. You know, they tried to pull last week saying that 90% of people that die, it's because they died of other things, and they're going to try to change it on their death certificate. Like,
it exacerbated from underlying issues.
Well, listen,
The thing exacerbated it, that little germ, that cell, whatever it is.
95% of the population has underlying conditions. Okay. It's like,
Exactly.
you know, and by the way, totally healthy. That thing could have taken me out. If I had got, like, I think about all the time, if I had gone to the hospital, went to the emergency room, the oxygen didn't work, and they put me on a ventilator, like, I, I, you know, you don't know. It was so new. And yes, the treatments have gotten better, thank God. They're putting less people on ventilators. That's good. But I just think that when we're in a position where when we can't trust what's coming out about it, you know, and I don't trust what's coming out from China. I don't trust any of it. Any of it.
We got to listen to the scientists, not the politicians.
That's
But you know,
right.
you said something so interesting. Green tea. Green tea is medicinal. And I drink white tea because white tea is supposedly, I was in China years ago, and they were talking about the benefits of white tea against diabetes. So, and I always drink white tea, but white tea is the tender seedling or the tender leaf of green tea. So that
Mm.
it's interesting that you say that. So I'm gonna stock that up just in case.
Yeah, and if
But
you don't, I don't love the taste of green tea, so I just have the supplements. So I take the supplements.
okay. So I am so sorry that you're going through this, but I'm so thankful that you are here to tell the story and to help people. I am so appreciative of you.
I'm so appreciative of you and all of your incredible work in the last 4 years. I really appreciate it.
Uh,
And you give me a lot of hope and inspiration. So
uh.
thank you.
Well, and that goes to my question. You know, so many entertainers get backlash for getting political. And, you know, why have you chosen to go this route and be so open about your politics?
I mean, I've never been any other way. So, I mean, in the 80s, I kissed a boy named Ryan White on the Phil Donahue show to prove HIV/AIDS ca- from casual contact. And so that was me at
Ryan
50.
White, the young man who died
Yes,
from AIDS, that
yes.
Michael Jackson, yes, became friends
I
with.
kissed
Yeah.
him on the Phil Donahue show to prove that you couldn't get HIV/AIDS from casual contact. And
Mhm.
that was, you know, I was 15 years old. So, you know, people are always like, how can you deal with all your trolls? You think this is bad. Imagine being 15 years old and having like nobody ask you to the prom because they think you have AIDS because you kissed a little boy on TV who is HIV positive.
Mm.
And not that I cared, but this has sort of been part of my being a celebrity has always come with trying to use my platform to help and to make the world a better place. I got political in 2000 after Gore had the election basically stolen from him.
Yes.
And in 2004, I started driving people to the polls for John Kerry.
Mm-hmm.
And I still drive people to the polls to this day.
Do
I mean,
you?
yeah, during the midterms, I hit 5 districts in the state of California. I started at like polls open, and I was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then I went all the way up from San Diego up to Fresno. And so, and I've also driven people to the polls for all of the special elections. I drove
Mm-hmm.
for Doug Jones, and so I don't know. I don't think that there's any reason to have a platform.
There we go. My phone, it's my phone. My phone
It's
is
okay.
crazy. Everything is going on. But
It's
but
okay.
that's the great thing about being human beyond being what you do. Because after a certain point, you have to walk away from the title or the position and look at humanity. And is that what you see when you see Ryan White, when you see people going to the polls, especially now, what we're in, people who have COVID? Is that what you see, humanity versus
I do.
celebrity?
I do, but also I think that what I've been given is a gift,
Mm-hmm.
and to not use the gift of having a platform since I was little, um, there's no real purpose. What is the purpose? Would the purpose then be just to make a lot of money and see? Because the way I look at it, and this is kind of how I decide a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to be thinking about,
Oh, don't think
what
about your deathbed, but yeah.
what tele well I've been thinking about this, but what television shows I've been doing, or how much money I've made in my career, right? I'm going to be thinking about these moments of service,
Mm-hmm.
of patriotism,
Mm-hmm.
of civic duty, to feel like that I contributed to humanity. Yes, humanity. I do see it as being a human thing, but I gotta tell you, I get really annoyed when people aren't vocal about what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I get a little annoyed. I have a lot of friends that are afraid to speak up,
Why are they
and
afraid? Why? Why are they
because
afraid?
they think they're going to alienate half their audience.
Mm.
But these are people that already have, millions and millions in the bank. It's like, how much more success do you need before you say, okay, now I can give my opinion on issues that are important to me.
Have you
Um,
lost jobs in Hollywood and Hollywood friends because of this? Because of your stand, because of your prominence in your opinion?
it's a good question. I've definitely lost endorsement deals.
Mm.
There have been endorsements that I've signed, and then I'll tweet something out, and they'll be like, you can't do that. I'll be like, well, then I can't use your shampoo. Sorry, like something like that. But I think, I would be losing jobs anyway at this age. I mean, I'm 47, so it's not, there's a lot less work for women my age, although it's getting a little bit better. And the work that I am doing is far more interesting than when I was working, 80 hours a week, at different parts of my career. So I think it's all okay. And I've been acting for so long. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I've been doing it for so long that it's not what fulfills me anymore. It's not something that challenges me
Really?
anymore. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. Like it's fun for sure. And the experience of it is fun, but it's not that thing that really like gets me inspired or motivated.
So let me say this. I was a fan of Who's the Boss? And you were so sweet. Tony Danza, Judith Light. I
Hmm.
love the show. And you were very perky, and not perky, let me not use that word about a woman. You were very outgoing. You were very outspoken, and but
Yeah.
yet you were still a sweet kid. But you were a major component to me at the time of the show.
Oh,
And then you've grown, you've done other projects. And at 47, you're still young. And I mean, you see Cicely Tyson still acting in
I
her
know.
90s.
She's
In her
amazing.
90s, so it's not over for you. But here's what I'm going to ask you. If someone presented you with a Hollywood project and the names Scott Baio or Roseanne Barr were associated with it, you would have to work with them. Would you take the project on?
Probably not.
Why not?
Probably not. Because I feel that anyone who has aligned themselves with this president, it goes beyond Republican and Democrat or having an opposing view. I think that anyone who has aligned themselves with this president, and this administration, just aren't good people. They're people that are responding to his dog whistles and his sexism and his
Racism.
racism and inciting violence and xenophobia. And
Mm-hmm.
so people that have been that vocal about it. Now, I'm not saying that people who voted for him are bad people. I think by the way, there are people in my family who voted for him. I get it. At that time, what he was selling seemed very, very attractive. But
Mhm.
4 years into this, seeing the destruction that he has done to our nation, to see our democracy at risk, to see what he's trying to pull with the elections, to see someone that's been impeached, to see someone who, 14 of the people that were closest to him have been indicted. If you're aligning yourself with that guy, you're probably not, and not admitting that or thinking that that was good for the country.
Yeah.
You're not my kind of people.
And it's so sad nowadays. I mean, I remember years ago, you could be, it didn't matter who you were. You could go to sing or speak or introduce something at either party, and it made no difference. But I mean, I remember not this past convention, but the convention before last. Antonio Sabato Jr., people are like, oh, Scott Bale, they were like, oh, and then to listen to John Voight, was it for the RNC?
Yeah.
People remember those names. And the reason why I'm calling the names out is because they've supported this president, and people are now, watching. And when we were young, I'll be 53 in a couple of years, so I was watching you when you were acting, so I'm still in that realm. Chuck Woolery had the dating game, and people are like, it's
Right.
amazing, and it's sad because it's not about party now. It's about this affiliation. I support and espouse everything he says, the wrongness, the rightness, all of it, and they're stuck to him
Well,
like glue now.
and anytime, I always say this all the time, but anytime you politicize, you dehumanize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so both of the parties are guilty of really politicizing issues to benefit a platform or a selling point. It just so happens that what I believe in aligns more with what the Democrats are selling than the Republicans. I believe in equality and opportunity and prosperity for everyone, and leading from a place of service and no hierarchy. And unfortunately, the Republican Party does not agree with that, and so they've kind of become this caricature of themselves. They're like these evil villains, I think,
Yeah.
where they're just, I mean, it's anyone that's still supporting that man, anyone that's not actively trying to get him out of office, um, I think is a problem.
Are you fearful he could win again?
I don't think he's going to win again. I think I'm fearful of what's going to happen when he doesn't win. I think
That
there's
that
an
time period between the election results and inauguration, and what he's going to do inauguration day.
I am fearful that he has made people feel like um, COVID is not a thing anymore. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we're encouraging mail-in ballots,
Mm-hmm.
and so the people who are going to vote for him are going to
Mm-hmm.
show up to the polls on election day in large numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Election night, it's going to appear that he is going to win. This is my
But election night is
theory.
not going to be called because we're still dealing with the numbers of.
But that doesn't mean he's not going to call it, because
That's true. That's true.
he can say, "Look, I'm winning. Look at these numbers. They voted for me in a landslide." Right? Because then they haven't counted the mail-in ballots, and we have a good, 10 days or whatever that they're going to count those mail-in ballots. What is he going to do? How is he going to discredit the election from election night to that final answer? And then is he going to accept that, or are we going to have to fight to remove him? And then what violence will he incite in the interim? So
That's
it's a lot.
crazy. But it's crazy, but it's reality. I
Right.
mean, we've seen what he's done and what he's doing and what he says he will do. And when he says it, it's pretty much underway. But getting back to what you said about, and I want to close this out and go to something else, how you said, when you speak out, and you are very vocal on the social media. You are Miss Twitter 2020
You should hear
2021.
me around the dinner table. If you think I'm vocal on Twitter, that's just the stuff I want out there in person. You should hear
Oh
me
my
at the
God! I'm
dinner
like,
table.
you are. I'm like, I,
Yeah.
I mean, I watch people's Twitter. I watch people go in. You are one of those. You don't care. You go in. You like, no, you take the knife. You don't stick it. You stick it and turn it. I said,
Yep.
oh my gosh, Alyssa
Yeah.
Milano,
Yeah.
you don't play.
I
So,
don't. I don't. And I think we can't play right now when everything
no,
is
we
at
can't.
stake.
No, we can't.
I think we can't play.
So you say you lost deals, and there's something up here from the independent.com UK that it says charmed actor Antonio Sabato Jr. says he was blacklisted from Hollywood for supporting Trump, and this was out March 4th, 2020. So it's
I
so
mean,
sad.
that might be true. I mean, Hollywood is a very diverse, inclusive
Mhm.
industry that that you can't have that kind of mentality of racism and being anti-LGBTQ. And our industry is made with a very diverse group of people.
Yeah.
So I could see how people wouldn't want to work with someone that doesn't believe in the beauty of that.
Mhm. So something that you believed in Tarana Burke, and you
Yeah,
believed in that
I,
Me Too hashtag,
yeah.
and you were such an inspiration on that. You know, how do you feel about that being part of your legacy?
Well, I'll tell you, I feel a lot better about it now than I did then. And the reason being is because I hadn't dealt with my own sexual assaults when
Mm,
that all happened. And so I was dealing with trying to be a good listener to everyone that was sharing with me. And, I didn't know about Tarana's work when I sent that first tweet. I didn't find out about it until about 48 hours later.
mhm.
And I was so relieved because for that 48 hours, people were opening up and sharing their stories of sexual trauma. And I was having to face my own sexual trauma that I had kind of, tucked away in a box. And so um, I was so happy that there is this this beautiful, incredible woman who
Mhm.
had been doing this work for it's her life work,
Yeah, it is.
who knew how to take a victim and transform them into a survivor.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget it. In the middle of all of this, and I promised her, I said, I promise you, I will not go on any television, anything during this time where you are not included. I will include you in everything. And it was a crazy time for us. And I'll never forget it. She called me one day and she said, "You know what? I was just thinking, like, how are you doing?"
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh my God, you don't even know." Like, totally just broke the dams open.
it brought afresh all of, like you said, the stuff that was tucked away. I had a woman that called me crying, sobbing, telling me how she was raped and how she was raped. And it was atrocious to hear, but it brought it afresh, and she felt it was therapeutic. Her tears were therapeutic. She felt like there was some kind of cathartic movement that had happened for her and everyone.
Hmm.
And I watched so many people just let it go and stand up and
Hmm.
without shame and say, me too. I
Hmm.
was affected.
Well, I think the beauty of those words and really the brilliance of the fact that Toronto recognized this 10 years ago was that um, you could just stand in solidarity
Mm,
with other victims. You didn't have to call them out. You didn't have to say what had happened to you. You could if you chose to. but it was really about standing in solidarity with each other. And the thing that I do feel really good about is like, we all see the very public facing movement. What we don't think about is the conversations in people's living rooms and bedrooms that people had with their moms or their sisters or their wives or their daughters, where they have not only shared their own experiences that they maybe had never told their loved ones before, but also decided that they weren't going to be silent anymore. And I think that that's what created the specialness of this movie was, I mean, of this movement, was that it wasn't just forward facing, it was private, it was intimate. People were talking about it in their homes. People were sharing with, their childhood best friends who may have had no idea. And I think that that's what made it so special, and that's what made it so incredibly viral, is that the conversations we were having in private
Mm-hmm.
gave it breath
Yeah.
and a heartbeat.
So since that happened, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. Do you think things have gotten better for women now?
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, I think that women are, um, I think that we're more aware of the system that
Yes.
has tried to inhibit our success and growth.
We know
I
what it looks like now. We
We
call
know
it
what it looks like. We know that we're not in competition with each other.
right.
That sisterhood, because for a long time I think that women were made to feel like there's only one of you that's going to get that corner office. It's not room for more. And so I think that a lot of the beauty that came out of that moment was that we did stand up together, shoulder to shoulder, and said, you know what, no more. I'm not going to let
No
you
more.
silence me. I'm going to go into human resources, and I'm going to take my friend, and we're going to, and we've seen now what happens when powerful men are held accountable for their horrible actions. They lose jobs, they lose families, they are publicly shamed. And I think that the cultural shift is definitely such that it feels big, it feels monumental, right? I think now we got to work on policy, right? Now we got to work on legal protections. We got to work on the Rights Amendment to have security in the Constitution and protections in the Constitution. Um, but I think that'll come. I think that'll come, and I'm very, very hopeful that my daughter and my son will grow up in a world where they both understand what no means and consent. And I don't know that people were raising kids to understand that concept. I certainly am now, and I know I'm not alone. I hear a lot from women about, like, I tell my son he has to ask to take that toy. He can't just take it.
That's a
Things
good
like
mom.
that.
That's a good
Yeah,
mom. That's a good mom.
things like that. You can teach consent without it being a sexual thing. So I'm super hopeful. We have a long way to go, but I think we're going to get there. I hope to see the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment in my lifetime.
Mm.
That would be so incredibly special, and a really important symbol, not only for all of our daughters but all of our sons.
So, what do you think about whenever there's some kind of big story, a Me Too story, and there's a powerful man brought down or spotlighted? There's always that large group, that large number of people who point fingers at Donald Trump. Is that large group of people like, why hasn't anything
I think
happened?
it's I think it's valid. I mean, we're now at, I think, over 20 women who have accused him of some kind of sexual assault. Um, I think it's valid. I think it's important. I think it's really important to remind people, especially when we're sort of post the Women's March, post Me Too, that, remember, this is why this all started, was because he was elected and caught on tape saying that he was
Get a
going to
tic
grab.
tac and grab them by the pee.
Yep, exactly. And I think it's important to a person, and that
But
there's numerous
he's
pictures
not
of.
only that person. There's a lot of other people out here who
Yep.
feel that they can just take what they want and just use women and throw them to the side like it doesn't mean anything. Um,
Well, I think that's because wives were at one point the property of dudes. So there is a mindset that they can take what they want.
and
I know.
it angers me. We are people. We're not property. We actually are stronger than men. We lead the home. We lead the community. We're the ones out here voting in numbers too
Yep.
large to ignore. We're
We
leading these
Yeah.
movements, you know.
Well, and in particularly Black women have saved this country. I mean,
Preach,
I don't
Alyssa
even,
Milano, preach it,
right? I mean,
preach
I don't even know how many times, when you think about um, what we've had to overcome and how Black women led the way, all civil rights movements, really.
So we were the help. We were the help when they didn't realize they needed the help. We have helped from the time we were brought here 401 years ago to now. We continue to save this democracy to
Yep.
this day. And that's
Yep.
the truth. So, and let's talk about this moment about women saving the day. There are a lot of women out here on the front lines in this Black Lives Matter movement. Was started by 3 Black women, Black
Yep.
Lives Matter. The Black Lives Matter movement, this
Well,
effort to get.
Tarana Burke, the Me Too movement. I
That's
mean,
right. That's right.
the list goes on. Angela Davis. I mean, the list goes on and on and on
And
of of
the effort to get out to vote, women are leading that, trying to make sure that, every vote is counted, be it at the electoral, what is it, the Board of Election
Mhm.
the Board of Election Supervisors ballot box, or even at the post office. So Black women are really stepping up to this moment in history of racism, voter suppression, of just and COVID. So it's
But
really crazy.
that is why it is inexcusable that we take advantage of that and then don't build in communities of color the same opportunity. So basically, what we do is we say, oh, we got to get out the vote. We got to get out the vote. And we have amazing Black organizers that go into their communities that organize for Democrats. And yet we're still abandoning those communities.
Mm.
And that's what's got to change. Because until the wealth divide changes, we're we're always going to be susceptible to people like Donald Trump.
The wealth gap, and that brings into um, focus the issue that communities who have money, communities who have power are listened to. They move mountains for them. And I say this all the time. People are like, oh no, we're going to do this. But you know what? If you come together collectively and if you work on building your economic prowess in the community, they listen to you more. There's a reason why certain communities get what they get versus other communities. The Black community is a community with the highest numbers of negatives still in this nation in 2020, and we're still putting the ask on the table, and we're not getting the answers. And there's a reason why, because they feel they don't have to show up for us.
Well, that is going to change.
It's
I
got to
really,
change.
I really believe that what we are witnessing right now is a turning point, is a tipping point. And I think that it is, look, when I think about this time that we have gone through in the last 4 years, the blessing is that people are now aware of all of our weaknesses.
Mm.
White people cannot ignore, good-hearted white people cannot ignore the fact that there is systemic racism in their country.
They can't ignore the
Institute
pain anymore. Nope.
institutionalized racism,
Hmm.
institutionalized violence. We can't we can't ignore it anymore. And you know what? When I think about what the cell phone was able to do for this movement,
The accountability piece.
the accountability piece, and I just I want to be able uh to know that this is not, that all this pain that is coming to the surface, that is rising to the surface, that is, it's not in vain, that we will come out of this era better than we went into it. We have to. I can't
You have to.
imagine going through what we have gone through in the last 4 years with this president and the entire GOP, and not making real fundamental change, real sustainable. And it goes to everything: our environment, gun laws. We really have to put our head down and put in the work to not only elect Joe Biden, but to flip the Senate so that Joe Biden can actually, you know, legislate and sign some laws that are going to help us, because we can't deal with, McConnell blocking everything. And this obstructionist way to govern is just mind-boggling to me.
Mind-boggling. So what do you think about, as we're talking about everything, Wisconsin and Oregon? It makes my blood boil.
I mean, I think that there is a difference between um, violence in the sense of uh, fighting for something, and something has to change. And I think that's what we saw in the civil rights movement in the 60s, but nothing changed. So now that's heightened.
Uh-huh.
And we can't compare that type of violence to, you know, a dog whistle from Trump that then sends a white kid with a AR-15 in, and then he shoots three people. And so I think there's a lot of things happening at once.
And kills
Um,
too.
and kills too, exactly. And I think that you can't compare those two things. You can't compare a fight for justice. No justice, no peace.
It's
No
true.
justice, no
No
peace.
peace.
You can't imagine that there's going to be peace while you're fighting for something that is life or death. And I think that we need to support that and understand that. And then I think that there's a lot of bad players that are going in and instigating. And I think we have a corrupt, um, I think policing is corrupt. The act of policing is institutionalized racism. I think it attracts a certain amount of white man that has certain inclinations to be superior or hierarchy, and you get to do it with a badge and have lots of excuses for hurting people.
Mm.
And I think it's all going to change, though. I really do. I think this has been such an awake, and that's what gives me hope. And that's why I keep fighting every single day, because I think we're closer than we've ever been.
We are. We're on the precipice of something. Something has got to give. Something has got to change.
Mm-hmm.
It's always darkest before the
Before
dawn.
dawn.
Before the dawn. So you have hope for a better world for your two children.
Yeah.
But where did you get this very open-minded attitude, this progressive attitude? Where did it start? Where did it come from?
I mean, my parents were part of the student strike in the 60s. My
Oh,
dad was. So I grew up very politically aware, and also uh, aware of oppression and how certain people felt superior to other people.
mhm.
And my parents were very good at instilling, not perfect, right? because things have changed so much from when I was a kid to now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being progressive means sort of being okay with not being a perfect ally and learning from mistakes that you've made, but not being afraid to put yourself out there. You know, I've offended many people in trying to do good, and I think the interesting thing is to expect an ally to be perfect. I believe is also a system that's been put in place to discredit people, or they take advantage of of our shortcomings for their own gain. But I think, you know, part of being progressive is really learning about like what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, what people feel. A lot of it has so much to do with empathy.
Yes.
So much to do with empathy and about being, but also just like being okay with messing up publicly. For me, is been has shown me the most growth in progressive ideals. And let's face it, nobody wants to be regressive, right? I mean, we should all strive for progress.
We
And if
hope no one wants to be regressive. You
I
have
know.
some people out here who are very limited and stunted, and I think our president is one of those. Yes, I said it. He is. And I'm going to get a whole bunch of comments, but I do. I
It's
mean, I just,
okay. Every time you get a comment, just DM me and I will give you strength. I promise.
I
It's
appreciate it.
okay.
I get
It's
so
okay.
tired of it, but you know, it's like whatever. But at the end of the day, this is 2020. This is not plantation 1800s. You know, this is 2020 where we all are here. And the browning of America is real. And there are definite overt efforts to suppress the vote,
Mm-hmm.
to have racial strife in this country. And
To
I'm so
hold people
thankful.
back.
Hold people back. And
Yep.
I'm so thankful that you are on social media slaying the dragons. I'm talking about, you talking about some of the slayers? This sister right here, she will knock them down. I'm like, Alyssa Milano, I'm like, ooh.
Ooh, oh no. Oh no. I know.
Ooh,
Imagine
Alyssa
how my
Milano.
husband and my
Who's the
mother
boss?
feel.
What'd you say?
Imagine how my husband and my mother feel.
How does your husband feel about it? How does your mother feel about it? What do they feel?
Well, I definitely think
They're scared
she's
for you.
she's proud, right? She's proud, but I do
Mm.
think that there is a fear factor. I
Yeah.
think my husband is less scared for me, and he's more like his heart hurts when my heart hurts. So it just like there's that element. But I think my parents are scared, you know, especially when everything feels so heightened and volatile right now
We're in
before
a
the
different
election.
day. We're in a
Yeah,
different day.
yeah, for sure.
Threats and all sorts of people carrying, was it marbles, shooting marbles out of guns and paint guns. I mean, it's
And
ridiculous.
soup cans.
What about the soup cans? Tell me about the soup cans.
Oh, you didn't see that video of Trump?
What did he do? I was
He
I was traveling the
he
last couple of
said that a soup can makes a better weapon than a brick
Oh,
because you could actually throw. You have to see this video.
when did he say that? Today or yesterday?
Well, it was released yesterday. There was a video yesterday. I don't know if that's when he said it or if that's when we found it. But yeah, so you know, those soup cans can
So
be.
he's actually teaching people how to arm themselves to fight. Okay. So is that what he was running from at the White House when they took him in the bunker, a soup can?
I mean, he hasn't been in that bunker since. And you know what else has changed is he hasn't accused Joe of being in the basement since Trump went in the bunker. So maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. That
I
bunker, that whole thing with the Bible and in front of the church.
Peaceful protesters were tear gassed and tanked. You know,
Correct.
and Alyssa, I say this, he was celebrating women's suffrage. These women were protesting as well, peacefully. But then you have it one way, but you don't want it the other way. These peaceful protesters wanted to get some kind of support in their fight against bad policing. They wanted to weed out bad policing. So what does he do? He militarizes the situation against peaceful protesters, tanking them, using tanks and tear gas. So, but my hope and my great joy about this is the pushback came from a Black woman by the name of Muriel Bowser. Her title is Mayor of Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
She used the color
She's amazing.
She used the color of that yellow caution crime tape to emphasize down Black Lives Matter Plaza that Black Lives Matter in front of the White House. So it's a lot, and it's a lot that people have to keep taking, and people don't want to take it anymore. And I believe that's what I mean. Even in your lofty perch, you are standing up for us. Thank you.
But also, I think that there's like this element of it. We are very, very blessed to be looking at this administration and GOP and talking about corruption and the politics of it all, because people in this country do not have that luxury because they're trying to figure out how to put food on the table.
Trying to figure it out. Figure it out.
Before this pandemic, 8 out of 10 Americans lived paycheck to paycheck, one life event away from total financial ruin.
Yeah.
Well, that life event has happened, I think. It's called a pandemic. And we're lucky to be on Instagram right now talking about this when people are literally fighting for their lives to try to feed their children and putting themselves at risk. And that's not going to get better anytime soon. I mean, I look at Joe Biden, I think he's a saint. I don't know why anyone would want to be president right now with all this that's going on.
I'm with you there. And with that said, I thank you for this hour. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties, but we got through it. And I appreciate you so much. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your stand. I appreciate your resolve. I appreciate your constitution, your push forward, your humanity. You are all of that, Alyssa Milano.
Thank you. So are you.
And I'm so thankful.
I'm so thankful for you. Thank you for having me on your Instagram. And anytime you need to chit chat about anything, please call on me again and call on me to be of service if I can help you in any way.
I'm calling you back.
Anytime.
And I'm so thankful. Thank you for sharing your true story about COVID. I pray that you're on the mend, and I'm so glad that you are feeling better this week. This is a destroyer, and I appreciate you. You tell your husband and your babies and your mama, thanks for sharing you with us. We are so happy to see you and talk to you and get some wisdom about how to fight and how to sustain in the midst of all of this. What is this? It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. And if any of your listeners want to get involved in this fight, they could go to joebiden.com and volunteer. Text bank, phone bank. Got an election in 60 days.
All right. I guess she's endorsing Joe Biden.
Thank you. Take care. Be well.
Milano. We love you. Thank you so much. So, guys, we had COVID conversations with Alyssa Milano. And before I go, I want to let you know, I'm going to take a break again. My birthday is Saturday, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to take a little time off, and then I'll see you sometime next week, and we'll advertise what great guests we will have next week. So listen, be well, stay safe, be smart about all of this. Use critical thinking, and may God bless you and keep you, and may you be safe. May you be safe in the midst of all of this foolishness. And my prayer for every one of us is to love and be loved. God bless you. See you next week. Happy birthday to me on Saturday. Bye. Take care, everyone. See you soon. COVID Conversations with April Ryan. Bye.